The show and tell. Who's ever first up on the end of the table with their item wants to show off what they bought.
Why don't I get out of the way here? Second, now I gotta get the right view here too.
You have two issues on showing.
Let's do the table first.
Yeah, we'll do the table first.
We have two issues on show and tell tonight. There's the monthly challenge and there's show and tell.
We're going to start with just flat show and tell and do the challenge after.
Okay. So which one's in the,
I can go first. My daughter started Nuhan Coffee Company, if anybody's familiar with it. And she hired this gal that she was just young. And she was working for her a couple of years and she decided to get married. And she had an aunt in Vermont that the wedding was outside, really nice, pretty wedding. And they got the white birch from Vermont, a couple good sized logs. She asked me to cut them up as plate setters or something to put on the tables. So I did, and I said, I'll do that, but she has to give me a couple pieces of the one log that was really nice. So 2 years, move ahead 2 years. She's pregnant. She got married. Now she's pregnant. Next week,
make sure the order's right.
yeah. Next week, she's due. So I said, I'm going to take a piece of that log and make some for her baby. So that's what I did. It's
Very, very pretty.
It's white birch from Vermont, and as soon as the baby is here, I'll give it to her.
That's spalted.
It's really spalted, yeah.
Can you hold up so that we can see the plate on the picture? The other side.
Yeah.
That's it. Wow.
Yeah. And now you gotta get in the habit of, you gotta hold it to the camera, but also to the room. The room wants
Yeah.
to see it too.
Well, yeah, they can come up and look at it too. Yeah, it's really pretty, and I never turned white birch before, but it is just wonderfully turned, just like butter, and it cleans up really nice.
Warp a lot after you turn it?
No,
Because I've tried other birches and they.
oh yeah,
birch.
this was 2 years laying in my shop at least.
What do you use for finish?
I used that CA glue
Really?
and polished it like I did, like you would a pen. I thought I'd try it on here. Just, I don't know how long it's gonna last. I didn't use that much. I didn't use it for that long, but it's really nice. It really.
Was it the real thin?
It's no, it's not one of that. It's not in that line. It's a different line. And I'm not, it's a number, like a 4-digit number that, and it's like $40 for probably about a 12 ounce.
Was this the stuff, Ben, that Susquehanna Club had a turner that demonstrated a proprietary CA for finishes like this?
I don't know. I can't remember that, but no, I got this from a guy in Florida. In fact, if you look at the last AA book in the Norfolk Island pine that he had in there, or that was featured in there, this guy had presented one of his pieces, the Norfolk Island pine, and that's what he had on there.
With one application.
One application and just buff it. It's really easy to do.
Any other show and tell for in the room here? What you got there, Dave?
So those of you who have been with the club for a couple of years know that I like turning pieces that have holes in it. So this is a new invention that I guess a new invention I did. I wanted to make a something with spirals, and I did spiral, closed spiral, flower bud vases and things like that. So I did an open spiral, and this is all done by hand. So there are 18 spirals around it. And if you look really closely, you can see where the wood broke when I was doing some spirals. But then I epoxied it all together. And these are going to be used as fruit bowls, and people really like it. I've gotten a lot of orders on them. I just have to go ahead and make them. So this is about 11.5 inches long or diameter and about 6 inches tall. And this is cherry, and I finished it with water locks. And I carved out with saber-tooth bits. So, and Sabertooth actually featured this on their Instagram page last week. So
You're selling them over the internet, are you?
these are also, I sold 32 on Facebook just for people who know me.
Wow.
So once I make more, I'll sell them on the internet, but I have to come up with a faster way of making them. So
There's a guy here who has a spiral jig, I heard, and it's a way to use it and make.
Make a mold, cast it
When
in
you said
plastic.
saber tooth, is that like a rotary tool? Saber tooth?
yeah, they do they do different grits of bits that you could put in a Dremel,
Okay.
and then they're power carving bits.
Cool.
Wow, super impressive.
They're like cut off,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
same thing, different
Different
maker.
Anybody else in the room here got one for show and tell?
Yeah, I brought a couple because I didn't know what to bring. So this is, I'm not a bowl guy. So this is my second bowl. Wait, oh, sorry. I'm not a bowl guy. So, and I can't do this because then it'll go.
I'll follow you.
Right?
No,
Okay.
yeah, we're
So this is my second bowl that worked. I'll say that it's not the second bowl I turned, but it's the second bowl that came out finished. There's no finish on it right now. It's just sanded to 4,000 grit. And I didn't know what I'm actually thinking about piercing it. I have a friend who is sort of like yours, getting married, and I'm thinking about piercing the whole thing and making it like a collection of ovals to sort of match the grain. So that's this. This is sycamore. The one thing I don't like about it is it gets all this like grayness in it that I am showing the camera. See, there's the camera. See that? That's the camera right there, Mike. God, the new guys are always giving you shit, aren't they? So here, I don't like the gray in this, but I love that, you know, the end grain is really nice. So it came out all right. So then I brought a couple of little pieces. A couple years ago, I went for the pilgrimage to David Ellsworth's, right? And got inspired by all his little tiny stuff, which is again 5 times tinier than this. But one of the things that I found really cool at David's is he had this bigger form that when he spun it at the end, spun backwards. And I thought that's really cool. And I made these 2 pieces, and they both, if you spin them right as they're done spinning, they start to walk backwards a little bit. I don't know how, I mean, I do know how I did it, I think now, but it was a complete David Ellsworth magic accident. I don't know if this table will work because it's not very slick. If you wait and you see it, it'll just a little bit at the end. You spin it the right way, it'll turn backwards just a smidge. Hopefully it doesn't make a liar out of me. Oh, yeah, it did. You got to look close. It did. No, I mean, it doesn't turn an inch. It turns 64th or maybe 8.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, 30-second maybe. But it will, one way it turns backwards more. See, this is the way it doesn't turn, and the other way it does turn backwards. And then this one does the same thing. It doesn't rock. It'll you can get it turning smoothly, which I can't. It'll stop and turn backwards. And that's olive. And I don't know what that is. I bought that at the Raleigh AAW meeting. So it was unlabeled, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. So
What did you use, hollow?
actually, I used David's small hollowing
Oh,
tools.
the smoke, okay.
Yeah. So that was the other thing. I was trying to figure out how to hollow stuff with a really small hole. Yeah.
Did you go to North Carolina or was it up here?
No, this is down in Asheville. Yeah, he moved before I was a turner. So yeah.
So how long have you been a turner then, Tom?
about 3 years.
About 3 years. And you just done 2 bowls now? Is that?
2 successful bowls.
in 3 years.
Yeah, I'm not a bowl guy though. I started with ornaments and I like to do hollow forms. I think I showed some stuff on the remote meeting last time,
Yeah.
some spiral stuff. There's someone who likes stuff with holes in it. I'll show you a piece later. So I started with hollow forms and ornaments and stuff, and I got lots of bowls, so I didn't have any use for bowls.
Sure.
But I'm playing around with form, and we just had our wood auction. So you acquire a bunch of blanks that other people have turned into bowl things. So you gotta make a bowl.
The longer you turn, the more pieces you have and more duplicates you have. So I don't know. I think that David Ellsworth probably has about 1,000 hollow forms. So I don't know how many is too many.
Yeah, all of his everything he displays, although, is different. So he doesn't have any two that are alike in a couple of the spheres.
Yeah.
But other than that, everything that's in his gallery
Sure.
is separate. And if you haven't gone down, you should go down, because his wife makes these really cool beaded like sea anemones, thousands of beads in a piece like this big. So they both have work in the gallery that's in their house, and they're both real. I mean, obviously David, but Wendy, his wife, is really quite an accomplished artist in the beading world, and it's really cool doing that.
He was on our coffee hour.
A couple times actually.
Yeah, and a few months ago he said that he's completely booked out. Now is it? So I don't know. It's like, anyway, who's next? Is there anybody else in here for?
Yeah, I got this. Out of curiosity, what made your failure bowls failures?
Oh, they blew apart. I'd go
that'll
too
do
thin
it.
on a spot. None of it was about design or I didn't like them. Like I threw them in the fire because I didn't like them. It was all trying to push. Like, this is the thinnest thing I've ever really turned.
Okay.
And so I've been trying to get thinner and thinner and thinner. And when you're doing that, sometimes I make a funnel, right? You miss the tenon by a 1/16 of an inch, and you have something you can turn into a berry bowl. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
It's not always a funnel. It can be a berry bowl. So that's happened to me. But then and you do that a couple times. You're like, why am I wasting all this time in wood making bowls that I don't really like anyway? So I went away from it, and then I just got this piece, and I thought, well, the grain was nice. It'll make a nice bowl. So
I have one other question then. I found that my hollow forming work actually made the thin turning easier. Because now because hollow forming, you can't look at the tool.
Right.
You must sort of gauge that sort of thing. Did you find the same sort of thing?
Well, for this, it's like hollow form, a lot of listening, right?
Yes, exactly.
A lot of listening. And the coolest thing when you go down and work with David is when he closes his eyes and he just starts hollowing stuff out. And you're just, that's your biggest fear, right? Closed eyes means you don't see stuff flying at you when it falls apart. So yeah, he taught me a lot about thinking about listening and feeling. Really, you can start to feel it when it's thin somewhere. And for this, I could shine a light on it or whatever. But really, it was mostly about listening to the piece. And when you start to hear that tinny sound, right,
Sure.
There's time to back off a little bit. And also, I think as I get more tool control, you can take a lighter cut, even in the inside of a hollow form. You don't have to grind out a big chunk of wood. So tool control is really the thing.
Can we see if there's any questions out in the room? In the Zoom, I mean? Let me try it. That wasn't what I wanted. Hang on a second here.
I have a bowl here.
We'll come back to you in a second.
Oh,
I just want to see if there's any questions so far from you guys out there in Zoom land. Okay,
Quiet bunch.
we're gonna finish in the room, then we'll come over and Dave's got some pictures that guys sent in, and anybody's gonna hold something up by their ear, they'll be able to do that too.
Go ahead, Barry.
Okay. Who's next?
Barry?
It's either Red Beech or Red Elm. I'm not sure. It's a piece we got off a forester, and I forgot to write down. He showed us both things, and both kinds of wood, and I didn't write it down. This was a live edge piece, and it had a branch that was growing out of it. I wasn't sure how the branch went inside. So this is kind of also my monthly challenge on it. What's inside the count? I was curious what would happen with the branch there. And the reason it has a red bottom, you're talking about making funnels. I didn't really go through the bottom, but what happened was I mistakenly put in 2 screws when I screwed the faceplate on initially. that were half an inch longer than they should have been. And so you could see a hole pattern down here that I couldn't conceal. They come out as white spots from water-based putty, so I wound up just pouring some epoxy in there to conceal those holes. But given the doubts I had while I was turning it, I'm happy with how it turned out.
Is that waterlock's finish?
What's that?
Is that a waterlock's finish?
It's one layer of water locks and then buffed on a Beal system.
Barry, back in the old days, we used to put felt on the bottom of the screw holes.
Y'all, I had epoxy, I didn't have felt, so that's a good idea.
That's the way you did it before you had chucks.
What kind of wood?
I said it's either red elm or red beech.
Red elm.
We were showing both species when you and I were down there visiting them.
Oh, yeah.
And I forgot when I got them home, which was which. And so it's red something, but it's not redwood.
I would say it's red elm.
Red elm,
That's what I would say.
the elms have it, 1 vote.
Any other comments from Zoom land?
Okay, do you want to go to show and tells out in Zoom now?
Sure. Let's do it.
Okay, let me just get correct here. Gotta get this guy to come to the gallery view. Okay,
Is there any?
you want to show something out there, we could click raise hand so we know who you are. We can spotlight you. Anybody?
I have,
Okay, Doug has some pictures that came in.
let me just, let me share screen here. So I'm going to start the screen broadcast. Let's these
While he's getting that up, I just remembered I do have a show and tell here.
Just a sec, we'll come back to you, Ron. We're gonna come back to you, and then we're gonna do the guy who's on the screen now. Who's it that's on the screen? Whose stuff is it?
Tom, it's is it Tom White?
That's mine. Those are mine.
Well, this is your series. You're the only one that sent them in, Tom. So you want to tell? This is for the what's inside that counts, I assume.
Yeah, that's my idea. These I did a couple years ago. The one on the left is cherry. The one on the right is spalted maple, I believe. But if you go to the next one, as you can see in the bottom, I painted the bottom with white gesso. This one, it's a bit out of focus. I thought I had a better one that was in better focus, but yeah, there it is. I thought I was being very clever by putting a little drawing of something on the upper inside of the form. So that horse's head is not on the bottom. It's actually being reflected in a mirror. The picture is on the inside of the top. And I did that on several of them like that. I thought I was being very clever, but it makes it a little bit hard for somebody to look at. So I'm not quite sure that. If you want to go to another one, that's just the same cherry bowl. Actually, I cut those in half and hollowed them out separately and glued them back together again.
How
So
big is it, Tom?
that one is a little over 7 inches in diameter and about 3.5, 4 inches tall, something like that.
Is that dyed or is that just straight?
That's the finish. That's Waterlock's finish on there. And that's what's on the inside of the cherry one. On the bottom, I made the little picture of the bird. And on the upper inside, it's a flower reflected in the mirror. It just makes it a little hard to see, but I thought I was being very clever.
How did you get those? When you said you put it on the upper inside, was that a hand painted? Was it a decal that went in there? How'd you do that?
I traced them out of a book and traced them onto the inside of the form, burned the outline, and then painted in the hand painted between the outlines of them. So there are various things that I picked out of a book and managed to get on there, and they sort of look at apps fairly good.
Did you,
Did you say you split them on a horizontal when you turned them?
Yes,
Did you-
I cut
did you
them.
Glued them back?
I cut the piece in half, turned a tenon on each end, 2 tenons, one on each end, turned the form, the basically a bowl,
Yeah.
glued them back together again, and very carefully did the rest. So I was holding the pieces in my lap while I painted them and all that sort of stuff. And I managed to not drop the pieces or break them.
Did you paint it while it was together or in half?
No, I painted them while they were separate pieces.
Yeah, okay.
And then tried to keep my hands clean, put them all back together again, and shine them up.
Did
It's
you
not
make a
too bad.
joint?
It's sort of go ahead.
Did you make a joint at the joint point there where you had like a mortise and tenon?
No, I probably should have, but they're basically flat, butted right up against the 2 pieces
Yeah.
the best I could. It's not real thin. The wood is still fairly thick, so it hasn't fallen apart yet.
Yeah, I did some and I made a joint when I put them together.
Yeah, you should make a tenon.
Yeah,
Make
but
a-
I've seen Tom's bowls, and you better have a magnifying glass, because he and I almost got into an argument about where he cut it. That's how good he is.
The next piece, where is it? There's another one there. Oops, that's not it. This one, okay, there. No, one with the 2 pieces on it.
this one?
I hid the joint in the center groove
Mhm.
of that. It's in there somewhere. It's even hard for me to find it. So in that respect, I think I was fairly successful.
Did you cut that with a bandsaw? When you separated the 2 halves of the cherry, was that with a bandsaw?
No, I turned it, mounted it on the lathe, and used the thinnest parting tool I had to a certain depth. The rest of the way through, I have a very thin, one of the Japanese, what do you call them, saws? The very thin bladed Japanese saws, and just elbow grease and time. And I managed to get it apart without too much damage. But that's how they were.
Yeah, I made one. I've used 2 separate planks of wood, and of course, that way you don't get a grain match. So what Axel's talking about, the grain match, I didn't get that on mine.
Yeah, that's the hard, that was what I was looking for, is trying to keep the grain matched for using a
Yeah.
very thin parting tool, but it seemed to work okay.
I
But
noticed,
that's,
I noticed Dr. Bob Silverman was on the call for a while there. I was expecting him to come in with his dentist work and, be able to do that inside back image with no problem with a little dental mirror, shouldn't he?
maybe.
Gotta put him up to the challenge at least.
I'm still here. I just don't do inside outs. Mouth was enough.
Yeah, you ought to be interested up on that technique.
You got any more
Thank-
pictures in?
The last picture I have is just mine. This is the beginning of the vessel I was working on today. It's actually a cherry burl I cut down from my neighbor's property, and it was supposed to be what's inside that counts. So for the monthly challenge, I'll leave it there. That was the starting point, and I'm just going to go back here and say,
Does your neighbor know that you cut it down?
yeah.
Does now.
Sure. Yeah, the cheese trees so sad.
Okay, Ron, you're on screen. You got something? Oh, Doug's
No,
on.
I'm not finished.
Doug's coming. Okay,
I just wanted to show you, this is the actual,
I gotta get your camera. Just hang on a second.
okay. This is the actual piece that I've got out of that so far. It's not finished. I just started it today. And hopefully the cork will give away what it's supposed to be seeing inside. Pardon? Wine. Well, I was thinking more of an old whiskey jug, but that's.
Moonshine jug.
Yeah, it's what's inside that's important.
Put a handle on it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you need to do this or whatever. You hold it over your shoulder like that. Is that what it is? Anyway,
Yeah, you put a handle on it.
yeah. Well, that might happen, but anyway, that's how far I got. And that's it for me. Anything else? Anybody else got anything?
Ron.
Ron, go ahead, Ron.
Sorry, I see Bob Mathers has something as well. Okay, first Ron, then Bob.
All right. We had this article in the journal the other day, so I decided to make a manhole cover box. Got a 2-inch thick piece of walnut, about 7 inches square, and I turned the 9-degree angles on the sides. I cut that, and then turned a little lid on it, and you tip it up. Let's see if I can do that. Yeah, tip it up and just pull the top off. Very thin top, about a 1/4 inch thick on the top. So you open it by pressing down on the one side and lifting the lid off.
So you kind of always do whenever they some new thing comes by in the magazine or someplace. You're the guy who always makes one, aren't you?
I try to, yeah. Some of the odd things. See if I can make one.
Good stuff.
I learned a little bit on this one though. I didn't get the lifting and the lid quite the way it ought to be, but it works.
Okay, anybody else? Bob Mathers, you got something?
You're off to.
You're muted, Bob.
It's okay, you don't need to apologize.
Just hit your space bar. It should.
Still muted.
Is he signed?
It seems like it, doesn't it? Like to me.
Hit the space bar and hold it.
You can just hold the space bar, give that a try. No, he's not in the audio.
Can you unmute him from here or no?
No, you can only request.
No, that makes sense.
Setting.
Can you hear me now?
Gotcha.
All right. I'm still living with some trees that I took down in my front yard for some time ago, and I cut the wood improperly, so I'm still living with it. And you can see from the side here that it comes off rather flat on one side, but it makes for a nice way to pick it up. And I hate to throw out a piece of wood, so I'll do what I can to salvage it. And that's just how I came up with this this different kind of a rim on there. And then I had another piece, and I guess I have a point where I'm working to a certain point and I don't want to put any more into it. And I had not done too well on the bottom here. So I thought, well, my wife suggested paint. So I just took a can of spray paint, put it in there, and I taped it up. But initially it didn't come out well. So I turned it again to get it even around here. And then I also sampled with, rather than using a stain, I just took old coffee grounds, wet coffee grounds, and rubbed it in there and darkened it down. So just trying different techniques. And that's that.
Nice stuff. Nice stuff. Yeah. Nice stuff. Thank you, Bob.
Nice little piece.